As a CEO or a founder of a product-based company, you probably have a story of a time when you spent money on advertising that did not work. It might have been a couple $1,000s on Google Ads that generated clicks but no sales. It might have been an investment that you made in a trade show booth, or maybe some other form of advertising, like a billboard, like a magazine. Maybe even an agency. You hired an agency to run some campaigns for you, and they had big promises, but all they delivered was excuses. And when that didn't work, you probably asked yourself, where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? And I want to tell you in this video that it is not your fault. You did all of the things you know how to do based on conventional wisdom. You hired qualified people, you spent real money, you committed to certain playbooks that you knew of, and you ran the play. What you didn't know, and what a lot of people do not talk about, is that marketing does not begin where you think it does. The tactics that you were executing, the ads, the copy, the trade show booth, all of those only work if they are built on a solid foundation that begins long before a campaign is started. And unfortunately, most companies skip that foundation entirely. I've been behind the scenes of dozens of campaigns that not only launched successfully with a profitable product, but they also maintained and sustained that momentum for years. And here's what separated them from the ones that fail. It's not the ad budget, it's not the copy, it's not the tactics that they use. It is the 7 foundational layers that they put down well before they ever began a campaign. The companies that succeed do the architectural work first. And in this video, I'm going to show you what those 7 layers are, how they all fit together, and how to identify which one is missing in your business. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why your previous marketing campaigns did not work and what to do in the future so that every dollar you spend on marketing brings back a profitable return. This might change how you think about marketing forever. And so thinking about that previous experience that you had, I'm guessing here's how it probably went. So you identified a gap in the market and you thought, I could address this gap. And being either the engineer that you are or someone that's very highly educated in product development, you designed a solution. You engineered something that you know was going to work for that problem. It had the features that it needed to have. You made sure that it was built of quality materials. You made sure that it had the right specs. You made sure that if there are any regulations, it fit those regulations. You built a good product. And so the next logical step was to tell people about this product. You wanted to put it in front of the right buyers so they can show some interest and so they can buy your product. And so you probably designed an ad, or you purchased a booth at the trade show, or you purchased some space in a magazine, or you started to push this product on social media. You did all of the right things you know how to do from a marketing perspective. However, you very quickly realized that you weren't getting the results that you were hoping to get. You're getting interest, but no purchases. You're getting clicks, but no conversions. You're probably getting people to even jump on sales calls with you, but then they will say something like, I'll think about it, and then they'll ghost your next call. You're probably getting people setting appointments, but as soon as you start talking to them, you realize that they're not going to purchase your product. And then here's where the frustration kicks in, because you did genuinely create a good product. And you probably started trying to think about, is it the price? Should I lower the price? Should I maybe hire a different agency to do the marketing? Should I maybe try a different platform, different tactics? Should I try TikTok? Should I try Facebook? But then here's why none of those tactics are working. It's because you're executing tactics on a foundation that does not exist. You're executing tactics on a strategy that was not built to begin with. The copy, the ads, the platforms, those are all the paint and trim on a house. But you never poured the foundation. You never framed the walls. You never built the structure that those finishes are dependent on. And no amount of beautiful paint can fix that. Now, before we go through the 7 layers that form the foundation of your marketing, let's diagnose where your marketing is breaking down. Ask yourself these questions and be honest. Layer number 1 is market intelligence. Do you deeply understand your customers? Do you understand their fears, their frustrations, their wants, their needs, their ambitions? Do you understand how they make decisions? Layer number 2 is problem clarity. Can you describe the problem that your product solves in one sentence? And would your customer also describe that problem in the same way? Layer number 3 is strategic positioning. Can you articulate your value proposition in a sentence that goes like this? My product is for X. That is your customer segment. Who struggle with Y? That is your problem, the problem that you solve. This is the only Z, that is your product category that provides X benefit. Can you fill out that statement, your value proposition statement, in a way that makes sense to your customer? Layer number 4 is your offer. Is it irresistible or is it just good enough? Would your customer feel the urgent need to buy it now, or would they treat it as something that's okay to sit in the back burner until they make other more pressing decisions? Layer number 5 is your messaging. Does your messaging articulate the benefits of your product in such a way that your customers will understand it immediately? Does it speak to emotional outcomes rather than just measurements and features of your product? Layer number 6 is your buyer journey. Have you mapped out the steps that your customer goes through from when they become aware that you exist and that your product exists to the stage where they actually purchase your product? And layer number 7 is the proof and validation. Do you have proof that the product is working for the customer in the way that you designed it and that they are getting the benefit that they hoped to get when they purchased the product? If you checked fewer than 6 boxes, you have found your problem. It is not the ads, it is not the tactics, it is not the platform. It is the foundation on which you set your marketing. And so let's fix that. Layer number 1 is market intelligence. I would call this the ground layer. Everything builds on top of this. This includes your customer research, your competitor analysis, and understanding the landscape around the product category that you are trying to build. What are the current trends? What cultures are shaping that particular industry or that particular space? What does it look like in the future? What has happened in the past? When it comes to customer research, there is nothing more important than knowing your customer. And when it comes to knowing your customer, the example that I like to show my clients is late night infomercials, because marketing begins with listening. It begins with understanding the customer. Customers do not buy your product because they understand it. They buy your product because they feel understood. And if you study late night infomercials especially, they understand their customers very well. And the first thing that they do is make them feel understood. Do you struggle with chronic back pain? Are your normal activities getting more and more difficult? Are you finding it hard to get up from a seating position? Are you currently unhappy with your treatment options? Do you feel like your life is passing you by because you can hardly do anything when you're in pain? For someone with back pain, those are things that they resonate with. That's their daily life. Of course, they're unhappy with their treatment options. They are still in pain. And so these late night infomercials will start with that before they come back and say something like, we have discovered a new treatment, or we are working on a new solution. So it's not about telling them first that, hey, look, I have this shiny little thing. It's first of all making sure that they feel that they're in the right place. And that's how they make a sale. That's how they build trust. That's how they build credibility. And that's how their marketing always works, because they made the customer feel understood. They made the customer feel like the person that's selling this thing has spent time studying what I am struggling with. And then you also want to go and try to look at other solutions. What else is in the market? What are your competitors doing? What are they doing really well? And where are they missing the mark? What language are they using to describe the customer's problems? What language are they using to sell the product that they're selling? You want to be aware of what other options your customer has before you present your option. And most companies skip this step entirely. They assume that because they know the problem, they by extension know the customer. customer. And that cannot be further from the truth. Knowing your industry and knowing how to create a product that solves a problem is not the same as knowing your customer and how they make buying decisions. You want to check and make sure that the intelligence that you have, what you think you know about your customer, is actually the right thing. Can you articulate your customers' top 3 fears and their top 3 desires in their own words and not in your industry jargon? If not, then you don't have layer 1. You do not understand your customer. All right, layer number 2 is problem clarity. Can you articulate very clearly the problem that you're solving? And is your product the best solution to that problem? People only buy solutions to real and urgent problems. Otherwise, they procrastinate. And here's a framework that you can use to evaluate the problem that you're solving. It's called the 4 U's framework. First U is urgent. Does this problem need to be solved now? The second U is unworkable. Is this something that the customers cannot fix on their own? The third U is unavoidable. Can they afford to ignore the problem? And the fourth is underserved. Are the existing solutions inadequate? If you can't check all 4 U's, all 4 boxes, then you do not have a hair on fire problem. You have a problem that is nice to have. And nice to have problems are a hard sell. And so assuming that the problem that you have is real and is urgent, let's look at the second section of this, and that is your solution the best solution for that problem? If your product only provides a marginal improvement to the problem, then you're going to struggle to sell that. It needs to be a breakthrough solution. It needs to be the best solution available. And sometimes you do have the best solution available to a real and urgent problem, but it fails when it comes to strategic positioning, which is the next layer that we're going to talk about. All right, layer number 3 is strategic positioning. Strategic positioning is about deliberately deciding how you want your business or your product to be perceived in the market. And you make that distinction so that buyers can see it as the obvious choice among alternatives. Without strategic positioning, your product is just an option among many. And what ends up happening is the only way that your buyers are able to compare is by price. And you do not want to be in that position. And so with strategic positioning, you want to have a value proposition. And there's 4 elements in your value proposition statement that are going to set your product on a path to be the obvious choice among alternatives. So let's break down this formula. It includes who is your product for, that's your ideal customer, the specific problem that it solves, your solution category, and the benefit or the transformation that your product provides. And all 4 of these elements need to be specific. Your product cannot be for all contractors. You need to be specific as to which contractors you created the product for. Is it residential contractors? Is it commercial contractors? Is it contractors in a certain area? Is it contractors that use a certain tool? Is it contractors that have been in the industry for X number of years? The more specific you are, the more you're going to be able to stand out. The problem that you're calling out that your product solves cannot be a generic problem. They need better materials or they need faster delivery times. It needs to very specifically call out the pain that the buyers are feeling. Your solution category or your unique position cannot also be generic. It needs to be a category that is familiar to them and something that they can very easily understand. The transformation also needs to be specific to an outcome that they care about and things that actually move the needle for them. And this is where a lot of companies miss the mark, and they think they have a marketing problem, but they actually have a positioning problem, because all they do is to put out their genuinely better product in the market, but then they go and describe it as just something generic. And so for a company that sells exterior paint, if your marketing sounds like we sell good quality exterior paint that lasts a long time, that's very generic. It doesn't really stand out. It does not use the formula that we just talked about. For that same company, they could very easily say something like, for homeowners who struggle with constant repainting and fading colors, this is the only exterior paint that features advanced UV block technology. It protects against sun damage and harsh weather, and your colors remain vibrant and weather resistant for over a decade. Same product, very different positioning. This layer is critical. This is where a lot of marketing breaks down, because if you skip this step, you're gonna have to be spending a lot of money to get people to even look at your product, let alone to take the next step and buy it. And if you're struggling with this layer, I have created a positioning audit that's gonna tell you exactly where your positioning is failing. This is really important because it will give you a map to not only assess where you are, but to also give you a way forward on how to fix it and to be able to get way better results in your marketing. That positioning audit is free and it's available in a link in the description of this video. All right, layer number 4 is offer design. Products on their own don't sell, but offers do. And what is an offer? An offer is the product combined with other elements that add value to the product. So your product can be steel framing, for example, but your offer includes customization. It includes consulting on design, a technical support hotline, a warranty, access to case studies. Offer design is all about value stacking. And the way that you value stack is by understanding what your customer is trying to achieve. What transformation do they desire when they buy your product? And then helping them with the things that they will need next. So if you're manufacturing building materials, for example, you want to be aware of what else surrounds that product that your buyer is going to need. They're likely going to need some form of technical support. They're likely going to need some accommodation if everything does not fit as designed, if some of the product breaks, if some of the product is unusable for whatever reason. You also want to make sure you have some sort of risk reversal. That means guarantees or warranties to put your buyer at ease in case things do not go as planned. Can you offer some sort of trial period? Can you offer a money back guarantee? Can you offer a performance guarantee? All of this value stacked around your product makes it very difficult to say no to. Then you will not need to spend as much money convincing people to buy your product. And that's how you make your marketing effective. Layer number 5 is your messaging strategy. And this is where you take all of the work that you have done so far in your positioning, in the offer building, in clarifying the problem that your product solves, and put all of that and translate it into a language that your customer will immediately understand. Now, this is also a very critical layer, especially to my founders and CEOs that have a technical background, those that have an engineering or a product development background. This is where most of you tend to talk about the product based on its functional capabilities, based on the specifications and the weights and the measurements and all of those things. And I have to keep saying those things are very important. They are what makes the product work. They are what solves the problem for the customer. However, that is not the language in which the customers make buying decisions. And I always like to compare this with when you go to a pharmacy. Most of us, when we're sick, you go and see a doctor and you get a prescription that you then have to go and fill at the pharmacy. When you go to the pharmacy, I do not know anybody in my life or anybody that I ever heard of that first asked for the ingredients of the medication, that handed over their prescription and said, "Can I see what ingredients go into this medication?" The things that most people are concerned about are the outcomes. What are the side effects of this medication? How long until I start to feel better? How do I take this medication? What times do I take it? Is it bitter? Does it taste good? So many things that are related to the outcomes, to what the medication is going to do, not what it is. And you can translate that when you start talking about your product. You start talking about what are the outcomes that my buyer wants to experience when they buy my product? What is at the top of their mind? Is it schedules? Is it sustainability? Are they trying to reduce waste? Are they trying to move faster? Are they trying to move slower? Is it more of a psychological problem? Do they want to feel safer? Do they want to feel less anxious? Do they want to feel more confident? Buying decisions are emotional decisions. Yes, even B2B buyers are still emotional buyers. And we make that mistake in thinking that because we sell B2B, that these people are more logical buyers just because they have spreadsheets and they have all of this software that tracks performance and all of these things about products. Yes, all of that is at the back of their minds. But front and center is, how does this product make me look to either my superiors, to my clients, to other systems that support my business? So that is the first thing that you want to address. Does this product make my B2B buyer look smarter? Does it make them look like they make good decisions? Does it make them look that they care about the company that they work for? Because whether you like it or not, these things are at the back of their minds. How is this decision going to look in front of my boss? You, as the person that's selling the product, have to make sure that you address that up front. Those are the factors that most influence buying behavior. Layer number 6 is the buyer journey, or the customer value journey. This is where you very deliberately design the steps in which the customer will take from when they first become aware of your product to when they actually buy the product. Now, a lot of company founders and CEOs make the mistake of assuming that just because a customer has a pressing problem, that you can put a product in front of them and they will buy it immediately. That is not how it works. Majority of your customers will see your product at least 7 times before they actually make the decision to buy it. And what you do not want to do is that to assume because they saw it the first time and did not buy it, that they do not want it. Most of the time when your customer is saying no, they're saying not today. And so you want to make sure that you keep that customer within your ecosystem so that the next time that they are ready to make the purchase, that your product is at the top of their minds and not some other solution. And designing this journey means that you're making considerations about your buyer and where they are at every specific step. And stage 1 is awareness. This is where they first come into contact with you, and they might either buy the product or they might go, I don't know, I'm not sure right now. And so you want to make sure, especially if you are marketing your product through content marketing, that every piece of content is directing your buyers to the next stage. You want to have a call to action that drives them towards the next stage, which is engagement. Then you want to have a call to action that encourages them to engage with the product, either to ask questions or to try it or to play a video or to sign up to a newsletter. You want to make sure that you are leading them onto the next stage. Once you have buyers that are engaged, that are responding to your questions, that are either liking or commenting on your social media posts, then you want to move them to the next stage, which is to subscribe. You want to invite them to either attend a webinar or to sign up to a newsletter. You want to invite them into your world. You want them to volunteer and say, I am interested in receiving more information than what is presented here on social media. They're interested in knowing more about this product before they buy it. Once you have customers in the subscribe stage, people that have put up their hands and said, I am willing to give my email address, I am willing to subscribe to this newsletter, to subscribe to this channel and get more information, then those are people that are ready for you to start making offers, to start selling to them and saying, now that you have taken the next step, here is an offer for you. Here's a 10% discount. Here's an invite to our next show. Here's an invite to come into our facility and see the product for yourself. You're able to start actually extending offers and having a sales conversation. Each of these stages is just as important as the last. A customer value journey is critical because it lets you know where your leads are falling off, where you need to tighten your marketing strategy, and where you need to create either better or more compelling offers for your customers to buy. If you do not have a well-designed customer value journey, then you're spending a lot of money each and every time trying to convince people to buy a product that they're not yet ready to buy. All right, last but not least, layer number 7 is proof and validation. People want to buy what other people are buying. This is just a human response. We are community building creatures, and we want to do what other people are doing, especially if we can tell that they are enjoying that purchase, especially if we can tell that they're having a good time, they have solved their problem, they're no longer stressed. We want to buy what they are buying. And so social proof is one of the most impactful factors when it comes to marketing. If you can demonstrate that other people have purchased your product and are happy with it, that is going to be extremely valuable to your marketing. This is the reason why if you're in a new town or in a place where you're not very familiar with and you're trying to either grab a coffee or something to eat, the first indication that you are going to look for is that other people are eating at that establishment, especially if you can see other people eating at that establishment and they look like they're having a good time. That is the place you're going to choose. That is social proof. And so long before you start to market your product, you want to make sure that you have validated it. You want to go out and do one-on-one sales with real customers, people that do not know you, not your friends and family, not your early adopters, but real customers that do not know you, that are seeking to solve a problem. And if they love the product, you want to make sure that you record that. You can offer incentives, you can offer discounts, you can offer anything that will make it more likely that they will give you either a written or a photo or a video testimonial for your product. The analogy that I like to make is that marketing is like lighting a fire. So imagine that you have a pile of dry sticks and you have a can of gasoline. If you take the can of gasoline and you pour it over the pile of sticks, what happens? Nothing. You've just wasted money on gasoline. But if you take the time to develop a tiny little flame, just a tiny little spark, and you nurture that until it becomes a tiny flame, and then you pour the gasoline on it, then it blows up. That tiny little flame is those few customers that will use your product, that will buy your product, that will use it, and that will give you your testimonials and your content for social proof. Once you have that, then putting money behind it is like pouring gasoline. Putting ad budget and marketing spend behind something that has already been validated and that you have testimonials for, that is what makes it blow up. That is what gives you a successful and profitable marketing campaign. But in order to build this foundational layer, you have to be very intentional about those first few customers. Give them all the support that they need. Make sure you check in on them every so often. Make sure that you are always in the loop about how they're using your product and the feedback that they have regarding your product. Because the testimonials that you get from these first few customers is going to be literal gold for your business. And so these 7 layers that make up the foundation of your marketing strategy, these are what create a successful marketing campaign. Again, not the ads, not the copy, not the marketing agency. If you take the time to build this architecture before you jump into the tactics, instead of ads that get clicks but no conversions, instead of tire kickers and price shoppers, instead of marketing that feels like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks, instead of frustration and wasted money, you are going to get successful campaigns that convert because the foundation is solid. You're going to get sales conversations that focus on value and not on price haggling. You're going to get marketing that compounds because every sale generates another sale and builds upon that to generate new customers, new conversations, new experiences. Not only that, you will start to get predictable income, predictable revenue, because you can see how your marketing is performing through your customer value journey. You can see how many customers are coming into the funnel and how many customers are converting, and you can make adaptations and changes where you need to. This is what creates a successful and sustainable marketing strategy. If you do these 7 things, you will no longer be losing money and not understanding what is happening. This is where your marketing is going to shift. You will not look at marketing the same way again. Remember that marketing is not magic. It is architecture. You cannot build a second floor without the first floor. You cannot paint on walls that do not exist. Every layer builds on the previous one. And if you skip a layer, everything is going to collapse, no matter how much you spend and who you hire. That is it for today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.